Welcome back. My next guest, I'm really quite excited to have him. I've been looking forward to talking to Robert Dickie III. He's the president of Crown Financial Ministries, and I'm sure you've heard of them. And we play some of their features here. They've been at it for over 35 years, helping people and individuals and businesses with tools needed to integrate values with financial practices in their personal lives as well as their business. And today we want to talk to him about the overall and the overview of the job market out there. Hi, Robert. How you doing, my friend?
Perry, it's great being on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, this is a fascinating financial discussion because we see all these numbers and we say, all right, who can we believe? And the latest Labor Department job report, can we believe it?
Well, you can believe it if you want to, but I think the numbers from most experts, most economists, the numbers are actually a lot worse. And you highlight the numbers that came out just last week, where it states that we are still at 7.4% unemployment in this country. In that particular month, the month of July, we added 162,000 jobs, which is down from the average for 2013 of about 192,000 jobs added per month. And yet our the unemployment rate shrank. And so the question I have for myself, and I guess for listeners, is we're adding less jobs, but the employment numbers came down. And everybody in the know understands that's because there's a lot of people who have just left the jobs market. They're no longer searching for employment. So I think this is a big challenge for us as a country.
Well, we're feeling it. I think everybody's feeling it. Yeah, there's some encouraging numbers in the economy and even in the housing market which indicate things are starting to turn around. But our own county here is looking still very high unemployment. And then they're extending these benefits. I mean, I can't imagine that this is going to, when it's going to take its toll and what the toll will be.
Well, the toll has been great, and I believe that we're not in for a correction anytime soon. We've had multiple recessions since 1974, whether it's a few months or longer in duration. The one that we're currently in, we have been going 65 months with employment over 5%. It's the longest on record. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge challenge. And in my article on Fox News, I point this out, that I believe Americans need to be changing the way we operate and start facing this new reality, which is we're living in a part-time world where most of the jobs, 77% of the jobs that were created this year in 2013, 77% are part-time jobs. So full-time jobs are not being created in this economy.
Is that primarily because the cost of doing business, and you add to that Obamacare and other things, it's just cheaper to have an employee part-time than it is full-time?
Absolutely. I was asked that exact same question last week on a different show. And Obamacare is the number one culprit. Every single CEO that I speak with, when they're talking about potentially bringing in new employees, they're all looking at part-time help right now because they have no idea the ramifications of this new legislation that's coming down the pike. They're fearful, so they're being very pensive. They're being counseled to keep very large cash reserves on hand, specifically for these unforeseen events.
Wow. So most of the jobs in 12 and 13 are part-time jobs that were created?
77%. 77% of all the jobs created in 2013 were part-time.
So where's this heading? I mean, do you see any full-time turning around?
Well, I tell you where I see this heading. I just spoke with the CEO of one of the largest and fastest growing temp employment agencies here in the United States. And this was his analysis. He said, Bob, if you take a look at Europe, the United States is very quickly moving in that direction. Right now, 42% of the entire workforce on the continent of Europe is considered contingent or part-time. Right now, here within the United States, we're about 10% of our overall workforce is contingent or part-time. He believes that within the next 5 years, the United States is going to be around 25%. So we're going to grow 15% of our workforce in the next 5 years as a contingent workforce. He says, Bob, we're growing so fast right now, I can't keep up with it. That's where we're heading.
So are you seeing people doing 2 jobs in order to make it?
Absolutely. That's people are having to put together 2 and 3 different jobs, 2 or 3 different sources of income to be able to cover the bills. We've seen, I guess, our wages have decreased. For those people who are living off of maybe retirement savings, we're living in an era of no margin. And then we're also in an era of rising costs. And so families are being forced to look at 2 or 3 different income streams just to make ends meet.
So let's get into what you might give in the way of advice to job seekers, what they may need to know as they head out on this murky road.
Well, it's definitely a murky road. And in the article, I outlined 7 points. And the very first point I bring up is, this is a new economy. This is not our grandparents' economy. The rules that we played by in the past are not going to be applicable to what's happening right now. So rule number 1 is plan deliberately. Everybody has to have a plan. Every person ought to have some type of career plan, specifically people who are looking for work right now. Maybe they're underemployed or they're unemployed. Those individuals need a very specific game plan to find the type of work that's going to be able to provide for their family.
Wow. What is this going to do to education, you think, in the long run, Bob? I mean, it seems to me that why get an education if you can't get a job what you've been educated to do?
That is a great question, Perry. Actually, if you take a look at the numbers on the education rolls from about 2007, the education rolls have swelled at our colleges and universities around the country. And it's because a lot of people are seeking the college campus as a place of refuge from this no jobs economy that we're facing. And they're thinking, well, I'll go back to school, I'll get some education, and then I'll graduate and get a better job. Problem is, they're saddling themselves with enormous debt. Then they're graduating and they're finding out, you know what, I can't find a job. So I think there's a problem. The experts are talking about the next big bubble within the United States being the education bubble. And so you'll see that a lot in the news, but it's a very big issue. Now, there's certain sectors of the economy that are growing where people can go to college and get a good education. But I think there's this fallacy right now within the United States that all high school seniors, when they graduate, need to go to college. That's just not the case. There's great things that people can do, and there's jobs and career sectors where you don't need an education to further yourself and to pursue those dreams.
And it seems to me with unemployment and student loans, there's an implosion heading our way.
It would definitely appear that way. Chuck Bentley, our CEO, just wrote a great book. It's called The SALT Plan. And he highlights how to prepare for an economic crisis of biblical proportions. And he highlights a number of famines within the Bible and how God actually prepared his people to overcome those challenges. So I believe that we as Christians and we as a nation need to be prepared. I'm not a fear monger, but I also believe that you need to take a look at the situation, understand what's happening, and say, you know what? This does not look very stable. Most people would tell you we're in a very tenuous situation as a country. We need to be prepared in case there is a second crash or a second recession.
What do you mean by mobility in today's job market?
That is a great question. It is something I'm facing as I've sat down with multiple people and counseled them in terms of opportunities that individuals have had in front of themselves. And in the past, we might be able to graduate from high school, graduate from college, grow up in a local community, put down roots and stay there within that local area, stay next to our family. And that, I think, is no longer an option for many of the youth of today, not even say mid-career professionals that are trying to do a career transition. We have to remain mobile and flexible to be able, at the drop of a hat, if a great job opportunity opens up around the country, to say, you know what, I've always loved living in Michigan, but I need a job. And there's a great job opportunity for me in Dallas or the Texas area is growing. We need to be able to move very quickly. There's also the Balkan oil fields in the Dakotas that's thriving right now. We just need to be mobile.
All right. I'm going to take a break here. Bob, we'll be right back. I want to talk about the change of career and how do you help somebody look at that, and where do you plug God into that picture? I mean, maybe he's trained one way and God's calling him somewhere else. I mean, that's quite an adjustment in somebody's head. We'll be right back with Bob Dickie in just a moment. Okay, we're back, and our special guest today, Robert Dickie III. He is the president of Crown Financial Ministries, and you need to check them out. That's crown.org, and is a tremendous resource on financial advice and help for your business and for you as an individual. Well, Bob, it's been said anywhere from 4 to 7 times someone may change careers in their lifetime, and I would imagine that's even magnified in today's mobility job market. Where do you plug God into that when you're counseling somebody?
Well, right at the very top. If you take a look at the 7 points I outlined in my Fox News article, Plan Deliberately, how Crown counsels with individuals who are struggling in this area and they're seeking guidance is, first and foremost, you build a plan. But as followers of Christ, we build our plan around Christ and seeking His input, His guidance, His counsel. Crown has a program called Career Direct, and we really will sit down with an individual, and it's in a very extensive assessment where we take a look at someone's values, their skill sets, their education, their passions, their likes, and it really unpacks, how has God made me? How has He gifted me? And you know what? When we go after opportunities where we're going to be utilizing the talents and the resources that God's blessed us with, not only are we going to be happier, but we'll also be more successful. And so that's really how we try to get people started down the right path.
Well, that's beautifully said, because, one thing that's coming out of all of this, turmoil, I'm seeing more and more young people just say, all right, I understand service, I'm going to go serve. And they're kind of like the modern day missionary. They drop everything to go help somebody, and they don't care about careers or money or anything. It's a different day when it looks to that.
It's a very different day. You've brought up a very important point. With the millennial generation, they are very passionate about being engaged. They're living in probably the most transparent society that we've ever had as a nation. And they want to feel connected. They want to feel like they are doing something meaningful with their life today in their 20s. They don't want to wait and spend 30 years in a career, retire, and then go do something. They want to do it right now.
Right. So
helping them get connected, and there's all sorts of great causes out there for them to be passionate about.
Are you seeing people redefine faith in their lives these days when it's harder to find a job? I mean, they're obviously living by faith.
Well, absolutely. There's so many stories in the Bible where God used challenges in various leaders' lives to refine them, to mold them, and to make them into the men and women that He needed them to be for greater use in the kingdom. And so one of the things that we try to encourage people is, if you're going through a challenge, fantastic. Take a look at all the great heroes of our faith that have gone through those challenges. This is a time of molding, a time of building, of refining, and God's got a plan for you.
You used a term a few moments ago, Bob, budgeting a job search. What do you mean by that?
Budgeting a job search?
Yeah.
Well, when you're searching for a particular job, it's very important. If you're unemployed, it is critical that you have a budget and that you're managing that budget, because the income flow is obviously down. So it's very critical for you to stay and maintain a great budget for your family. And sometimes you might need a counselor, whether it's a counselor you would receive through Crown or maybe a resource at your church. Get some help to maintain a proper budget during those crises.
In light of social media, is this a plus in finding a new job?
Actually, social media is extremely critical. Let me tell you why. The CEO I was referencing just a little while ago, I said, now, how are you finding recruits and where are you placing them within this job search? And he said, Bob, 40% of the people we find to place at a company comes from referrals. The other 60% comes from us searching online. So 60% of the people they find by going online and looking at social media sites and doing various things like that. And do you know the #1 site that he goes to, or that members of his company utilize? It's LinkedIn. 70% of all the people they find online is through LinkedIn. So being engaged in social media as a person looking for a job is very important.
Is that because of the endorsements there?
I think so. I mean, I tell people, think about LinkedIn as an online business card. It allows you to tell all sorts of your skill sets and background. But I tell you what's very important is for him, he says, Bob, I want to know who this person is. So don't just tell me your skill sets, but also tell me about yourself. What are your passions? What do you like? And then you get to see people who have commented, hey, Susan did a great job at this company, and so all that commentary really helps give the individual a good feel for who you are and what you can do in the past and in the future.
Well, that is fascinating. I would have said Facebook. Where's Facebook play into the picture?
Actually, Facebook does play into the picture, but this is also a very critical point because, I counsel a lot of young individuals and say, guys, everything you do on social media reflects on you. You are building a brand about yourself. And so you don't want one of your respective employers to go out there and search your Facebook account and find all sorts of crazy stuff that you're doing on the weekend and say, I don't know if that guy's going to represent our company very well. And you know what? These search companies immediately go to Facebook. They check out what you're doing, and so they're not going to hire somebody to come into their company that might represent them the wrong way.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. All right, in this environment of part-time jobs, perhaps multiple careers, what advice do you get to somebody who's bent on sticking with one career and not looking outside and developing other talents?
I think it's a mistake. I think that you've always got to be learning and growing and expanding yourself, looking for new avenues for success. There are industries here within the United States that are closing down. I have friends in Flint, Michigan, who have been a part of the automotive industry for their entire career. Wow. And as factories have been shut down and those jobs have been moved overseas, they can sit there and hope that factory is going to reopen, or they can go and get retrained in an industry that's growing in Michigan. And so my counsel to them has been, don't hope that factory is going to open back up. Guess what? It's not. You've got to go out there and retrain yourself and learn something new. Always be developing.
Wow. All right. So somebody wants to get their foot in the door in a particular company, and that door seems to be pretty well nailed shut. You got any advice?
I certainly do. Right. One of the best ways is to get involved in various networks within your community. You want to build your network, but if you really have your eye on a specific company, you say, man, I'm just passionate about what they do. I would love to be a team member for that organization. You know what? Go and meet the leaders of that organization. See if there's ways for you to volunteer. If you're younger or even if you're older, are there ways for you to intern? It's amazing how when you get your foot in the door, you build relationships with the senior leaders of that organization. Guess what? When a job opens up or a new position opens up, you're going to be the top of the list because they know you, they trust you, you've built a rapport with them, and it really helps you get in your foot in the door.
All right, let me take you over to another area for a few seconds, and that is most pastors are not CEOs. Mm-hmm. And their staff below them just isn't well managed. You have any comments on that?
Actually, I do. My dad is a pastor. He's been in ministry for 40 years, and he would echo your comments. He's been a Baptist minister, and God has gifted him with the amazing ability to speak and to encourage people, but he doesn't have the gifting to run an organization. And so it's very critical to surround yourself with key leaders, to know how God has gifted you, and to be able to utilize those gifts that God's given you, but then to fill in around you with key men of character and integrity that can help lift the load and lift the burden and lead the organization. So that's extremely important for pastors.
Are you seeing a high turnover in church employment these days?
Well, it depends. Some churches, the answer is yes. In other churches, the answer is no, and here's why. The nonprofit world and in the church world, if the finances of that organization are healthy, it has been an area where people have kind of retreated to find some part-time work. And so I know some churches where they've had needs. I say, you know what, let's hire a few members of the congregation to do things around the church. And so in that respect, the organization is growing. Although there's a lot of churches out there where they've had big staffs, and as the congregation has gotten a little smaller, the economy has impacted them. They've had to let people go. So yes, it is impacting the church and senior leaders there as well.
Well, this is a fascinating thing, Bob, because I think we're, at the moment, and I don't want to be a downer here, but there doesn't seem to be a turnaround in the economy that makes this job market look too bright. So where do we find solace in the midst of all of this?
Well, as a follower of Christ, we always find solace in him. And this is a time and opportunity for us to grow our faith, to get on our knees in prayer. As a former military member, captain in the Air Force, your counsel with your previous caller, Brian, we said, look, a revival can take place in this country. It's going to have to start with us. It's going to have to start with God working through us. But if we keep our knees in prayer and we seek him and his guidance, I believe God's going to take care of his followers. He promises that in the Bible. And we put our faith and trust in him. He's going to take care of us, and we just pray for a revival. We pray that God uses this challenging time within our country to bring people back to Christ, and I think that's what he's going to do.
I echo that, because it seems to me that with the chaos the way it is and everything seems to be upside down, it provides the greatest moment of ministry than we've ever seen. I mean, the fields have never been whiter than they are right now. This is the church's hour to step forward.
Amen. This is a time for us to be excited. People who normally would not be looking for answers, they're like, yeah, I'm out of a job. I'm depressed. I'm in this struggle. They're looking, and it is the perfect opportunity for us to come alongside them and say, brother, we're here, and let me tell you about Jesus Christ. And it is the perfect opportunity for us to witness and to help members of our community.
Well, you're a delight. Let me just encourage our viewers and listeners, check out crown.org. It is a great resource for you personally, and especially if you're running a business and if you're running a ministry. All of these things together, they have the resources to help you down this road. And believe me, we are living in challenging times. Bob, stay in touch, will you? Let's have you back often, and keep up the good work. This is really refreshing.
Thanks, Perry. I appreciate being on the show. I'll keep you in my prayers.
All right. God bless, pal. And we'll see you next time on Focus Today.